has made the attainment of NTR revenue projections as a requirement in the performance contracts of accounting officers for the financial year 24-25. The votes are summarized below. The committee recommends approval of 152.98 billion to various central and local government votes for the purpose of helping them to enhance and collect more 400 billion to support the budget. The details are in that table. Number 28, National Water and Sewerage Corporation, Uganda shillings 14 billion. The committee observes that a number of government institutions owe the National Water and Sewerage Corporation arrears for water supplied by the institution. In order to support National Water and Sewerage Corporation operations and ensure service delivery and also reduce on the stock of arrears for water, Uganda shillings 14 billion has been provided to vote in the health sector and Uganda prisons as summarized below. The committee recommends approval of 14 billion to vote as highlighted in the table 5 below. That is to pay water for Mulago Hospital 6 billion, Jinja Referral Hospital 4 billion, Mulago Specialized Neonatal Hospital 2 billion, Uganda Prison Service 2 billion, totaling 14 billion. Number 29, votes 601 to votes 935, local governments. Uganda shillings 170.168 billion. The committee observes that 1, Uganda shillings 143.989 billion was unspent, while the unspent funds in the financial year 23-24 for the Uganda Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfers, UGF reform, and the details here are Annex 3. This is mainly for the construction of seed secondary schools, upgrade of health center 2 to health center 3, water projects, and a micro-scale irrigation projects. Annex 3 has the details. 2, Uganda shillings 26.179 billion was for reverting of USMID unspent balances that were returned to the consolidated fund at the closure of the financial year 23-24. The details are in Annexure 4. The committee recommends approval of Uganda shillings 170.168 billion to various local governments votes as highlighted in Annexure 3 and 4. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, in conclusion, I request the House to approve this supplementary expenditure under Schedule 1 for financial year 2024-25, totaling Uganda shillings 1.0506 billion, as outlined in the table 6 and 7 below, and detailed by vote in the supply schedules A, B, and C of the proposed supply schedules. I beg to submit. I beg to report.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you together with your committee. Chairman, I made it to understand you have a minority report.
Right, Honorable Speaker, sorry for that omission. I should have laid on the table a minority report, which is part of the report on this very supplementary expenditure. And this was submitted by Honorable Ibrahim Nganda.
Honorable Ssemujju, kindly come and table your report. I don't usually see you starting reporting from the corridors as you on the walkway.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I am Ssemujju Ibrahim. That's the name I am known and referred to in Parliament. Nganda is my father who died recently. So you don't have Ssemujju Ibrahim Nganda in Parliament. You have Ssemujju Ibrahim. Mr. Speaker, just for emphasis, the supplementary expenditure schedule number 1 amounting to 1 trillion was laid on table on December 19th and referred to the Budget Committee. This supplementary is in respect of the current financial year, whose budget was 72.130 trillion. So we approved a budget of 72 trillion. We are now revising it. You, Parliament, therefore, are being asked to increase this budget to shilling 73.181 trillion. That's what we are being asked to do this afternoon. 73.181 trillion. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, we urge you not to approve this request on the following reasons. Reason number one, chaotic and unrealistic budgeting. Honorable members, in all his reports to Parliament, the Auditor General has extensively reported on total budgets passed, total warrants issued. Warrant means just the release by Minister of Finance, and the actual revenue realized to finance the budget. Last financial year, 2023-24, for example, this Parliament approved a total budget of 52.737 trillion. You were asked to revise it through supplementary request to 61.669 trillion, which you did. The Auditor General, on page 38 of the report, Mr. Speaker, that was presented to you, says only 50.172 trillion, please include the trillion, was warranted, which means was released by finance. But they ask you to revise the budget to 60. Eventually, when it came to release, they released the 50. And part of the release was air. Why? The actual money that was available for spending was 48 trillion. This means there was no money to finance the budget that you passed, you as Parliament, of 52 trillion, but we are asked to revise it to 61. A total of 11.498 trillion was not released, was not warranted by finance. But even what they claim to have released, they didn't have money to finance it. That's why the actual spending was 48. As a result of this, areas continue to accumulate, and they are providing almost perennially in every budget only 200 billion to clear the areas. In the recently released report of the Auditor General, the Auditor General has put the figure of areas to 13.814 trillion, and which is never usually included in the public debt. It increased from 10.5 trillion the previous year. So each approval you make here, know you are committing a country, you are injuring suppliers, because in the end, the Honorable Musasis will supply air. You therefore, as Parliament, have a duty to curtail this insatiable appetite for supplementary budgets. You don't have the money to finance the budget as approved, and then you're asking Parliament to revise it upwards. Point number two, non-compliance with the law. Right, Honorable Speaker, Section 25(6) of the Public Finance Management Act outlines the criteria for supplementary budgets, specifying that supplementary request expenditure should be, as the committee said. We are only disagreeing on the recommendation. Because you can't say, you read the things the chairman has read, and then at the end you say approve. It must be unabsorbable, where the expenditure cannot be funded through environment. The chairman noted that. Unavoidable, where expenditure that cannot be postponed to the next financial year. And unforeseeable, where expenditure was not foreseeable by the vote at the time of budget preparation, or should have been included in the original budget. Mr. Speaker, these criteria suggest that supplementary budgets are intended for unexpected and critical expenditure that could not have been anticipated or planned during the budget process. This supplementary seeks to finance activities that should have been budgeted for or can be catered for in the next budget, which we are now processing. There are many things you've had, festivities in Iteso, Ruvoa, Chogam, the whole list, you go, because now as a parliament you are under obligation to begin checking every request against the law and then see if it fits. That test my committee failed. That's why I'm here to alert you. On page 326 of the Auditor General's report, the Auditor General says, supplementary funding amounting to 2 trillion was not warranted, defeating the purpose for which the funds were appropriated. Even what they come here to ask as supplementary, they don't have money for it. And I will come back to this. So last financial year, all the amount of money is passed as supplementary. There was no money to finance that supplementary. And then you ask, he's asking, how do you know? I'm saying Auditor General. Be attentive. Right, Honorable Speaker. The Public Finance Management Regulations 2016 as amended, Regulation 18.1, outlines the procedure for seeking supplementary budgets, including justifications that demonstrate urgency, necessity, and compliance with legal and budgetary frameworks. While Regulation 18.2 requires ministries, departments, and agencies to justify why the expenditure could not have been reasonably foreseen or accommodated within the approved budget. The Budget Act, you can skip that. So many of the entities being given money in this supplementary don't actually meet the criteria as illustrated in the Public Finance Management Act. And I have given examples, Ministry of Gender, Human Rights, Treasury Operations, etc. The Auditor General on page 23 of his recent report notes, Regulation 18.2 of the Public Finance Management Regulations requires that an accounting officer who intends to spend money as supplementary expenditure shall request the minister's approval in writing. The Auditor General says, I noted that 185 entities received supplementary funding worth 382 billion for pension and gratuity expenditure in financial year 2023-2024 without any written requests from the accounting officers. And the committee is aware of this. We were actually supposed to have had another meeting with the Minister for Finance, which didn't happen, only to meet my colleagues signing a report. Point number 3. Ruoa Specialized Hospital. This supplementary seeks to give more money to Ruoa Specialized Hospital, being constructed by that wonderful Italian friend of President Museveni called Enrica Pinetti Milano. Money to Pinetti in this supplementary, which is 53.119 billion, is being requested for by vote 130 Treasury Operations, which is a vote primarily for debt servicing. Honourable members, government signed a promissory note purchase agreement in December 2018 with the Ministry of Health as the implementing agency. Of course, you are aware that since then this Pinetti issue was removed from Ministry of Health. It is under the office of the Prime Minister. Africa Export-Import Bank, Trade and Development Bank, Barclays Bank Limited, among others, to fund the project up to the tune of $379.7 million US. Parliament approved this funding and execution modalities in March 2018. Since then, government has paid Pinetti or Ruoa 476.4 billion. The details, I don't have to go through them, how money has been paid to Pinetti. To date, the government has redeemed 7 promissory notes with a total value face of $133.6 million US, reflecting a financial performance of 35.2% of the total project cost of $379 million. The Auditor General's report on Treasury Operations for the year ending June 2023, last year's report, highlighted concerns that Although the owner's engineer issued milestone certificates based on progress reports from the contractor, the engineer first restricted access to the construction site. Even the engineer who should be there to do your work cannot access the site. This limitation undermines their role in safeguarding the interests of both the Minister of Health and the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. The audit further revealed that the milestone certificates were primarily based on contractor submitted reports. So Pineti constructs, then she writes, finance, pay me, worker has reached here. And Musasi runs to Parliament, please pay. The Public Accounts Committee. The Public Accounts Committee's intergovernment, in its review of the Auditor General's report, observed that the government failed to conduct adequate due diligence on the agreements and the project overall, raising doubts about the validity of the payments relative to the work completed. The committee was unable to verify the progress of work at the site due to repeated obstruction by the project developer, by Pineti. In light of these issues, there is a significant risk of financial loss for Ugandans. You have already put in 476 billion. Now you are being asked, please you add. And then there are colleagues who are about to add. It is recommended that the project be halted until a special audit report is completed and Parliament can deliberate on its findings. Issue number 4, State House wants 234 billion classified expenditure. This financial year, we passed a total budget of 452.2 billion for the residence of the President and his dear wife. President and his wife, because all their known children are now adults that are not catered for by the law on Presidential Emoluments and Benefits Act. These are issues of law, even if you want to be emotional about them. The law states who should benefit. State House is a creation of this law. It is a home for things like sleeping and not work. That's why the office of the President is established. The occupant of State House is expected to wake up every day and goes to President's office to work. He's not expected to turn himself into an extension work, supervising sugarcane growing in Usoga and poultry farms in Bunyoro, taking photos behind heaps of eggs. The occupants of State House are requesting 234.75 billion mbu. It is classified expenditure. That the shilling 81.6 billion you gave them in the current budget as classified expenditure has been exhausted. Because in the budget, you gave them 81 billion. Now the 81 is finished. They want 234 classified. The shilling 234 billion will bring total State House budget to 686.6 billion just by halfway of the financial year. Remember, this is just the first supplementary request this financial year. Last year, we processed 3 supplementary requests, bringing total State House budget to 802 billion. If you colleagues, especially NRM, you allow this request, it will mean that you have given the occupant of State House 315 billion in classified expenditure. This residency is the only one in the world. Mind you, you will never know how this money is utilized. They account to themselves when it comes to classified expenditure. There is absolutely, I will respond to you when I am finishing. There is absolutely no doubt in our mind that part of this money is for campaign and the rest is for personal use. Someone should tell me, what classified thing does our president do in State House? And even if it were to be there, does it cost 315 billion a year? Right, Honorable Speaker. State House uses classified expenditure as a trick to increase its budget. Last financial year, take note. Parliament approved the total budget of State House 421.9 billion for State House. They increased it to 799.8 billion through 3 supplementaries. Total supplementary request for State House was 456 billion, bigger than the budget that you had actually passed for them. The supplementary was bigger than the budget. Classified expenditure, which is security, should be requested for by defense, police, ISO, and ESO. This is one way of enriching occupants of State House. Can you imagine these fellows are swimming in money while the country's road network continues to deteriorate? In Morago, the intensive care unit has 27 beds, but only 15 are working. No money to recruit staff. But the residence has a Honorable Speaker and honorable members. The Chief of Defense Forces, he keeps asking, what do you know now? Listen. The Chief of Defense Forces, General Moses Kainerugaba, has already called members who sit on Defense Committee as clowns and idiots. He also called a member of this House, the immediate Deputy CDF General Rueru, a buffoon. We need to examine how we conduct parliamentary business. This is for you. If they throw a supplementary like this that does not comply with the law and you pass it, they will reward you by calling you idiots and clowns. It is entirely up to you. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
That's a vintage Ssemujju. Thank you, Honorable. So, colleagues, we are going to have a debate which starts now. Mr. 1, 2, 3, 4. Vice Chair Park, DP, UPC, FDC. Yes, I've picked you, honorable colleagues. The ones I've picked, please, I start with you. 2 minutes each. So
thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the committee for very clear report. And I would like to agree with some of the recommendations. I would like to dwell specifically on vote 601 to 935, which is on local governments, about the 170.168 billion, whereby 143.989 was unspent funds in financial year 23-24 for UGIFT. Right Honorable Speaker, in a Leptong district where I represent, we benefited from similar funding and revoting, which was part of unspent funds for the previous financial year. And that went towards the upgrade of Health Center 2 to 3. Recently, we commissioned Adwir Health Center 3, which is right now providing maternal services and supporting the women and children. And the recommendation from the committee about the unspent funds for UGIFT and also for USMID. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chen.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. It would be good that when some votes are losing and others are gaining, maybe it would be good practice to know which votes are gaining if these are not additional resources. Another issue I would want to raise is that when the government is bringing these issues, we passed a loan of $636 million for scale-up project and electricity. And recruitment was done, procurement was done, but there is no counterpart funding of 65 billion. So why didn't the Minister of Finance find it in their own wisdom to provide for the 65 million such that now this SCARA program takes off instead of now giving to the Pineti business. I thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Boka.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity I rise to support the request on 3 grounds. One is on the Dr. Deep projects. My constituency is a beneficiary of that. We have a bridge that has a budget shortfall of close to 800 million. This will go a long way in bridging that gap. Secondly, in the health sector, we have a number of health facilities that have been recommended for upgrade by the UPDF Engineering Brigade. Unfortunately, because of delay in the release of funds, the works have not commenced. I also believe this supplementary budget will go a long way in providing the resources for the UPDF Brigade to be able to start work. Lastly, I have a health center, a seed secondary school, Gopele. Work has stalled for the last about 6 months because of, again, money that has been swept back. The reverting of this money will go a long way to ensure work commences and is completed timely. I submit and I therefore support to the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Herbert. Then Norman Zochero.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the chair of the committee for the good report. Right Honorable Speaker, when you go through the submission of the committee, whereas the law requires a supplementary, whereas other factors are considered, the submission, you would actually see that none of what they submitted was not foreseen. None was not foreseen. They should, all what I read and what I went through was foreseen. So I want to urge Parliament that it's a tendency by government to bring in the budget what is non-priority and leave priorities. So that when they bring what is priority here, we see it as an emergency, as a requirement, and pass it under supplementary. So we need to scrutinize when we are passing these budgets. To Right Honorable Speaker, there is the 6 billion meant for the administrator of UTER. We had interrogated the administrator of UTER because I'm on an ad hoc committee investigating poster. And he told us that UTER, the administrator, is only required to take assets, not liabilities. Now, if you're an administrator who is taking up assets and not liabilities, why do you require supplementary to go and pay what? So we need actually to further understand why is this administrator requiring 6 billion, yet he was supposed to only take assets of Uganda Telecom, not liabilities. Because one of those liabilities was a payment for poster, which they have not paid. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Colleagues in the public gallery this afternoon, we have a delegation of Karuguza Development Radio listeners from Buyanja County, Buyanja East County in Chivale District. They are represented by Honorable Kasaija Matia, Honorable Kugonza Emra, and Honorable Ksembo Nowerin Basemera. They've come to observe proceedings of this House. Join me in welcoming them. Thank you. Honorable Norman Zochero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House did pass a budget for this financial year within their powers. But all of us remember very well that when the budget was passed, technically, I don't know how to call it, whether technically, we were requested to adjust it. Technically, we were requested to adjust the budget or to change priority, which we did. And we lost a lot of vital investments in critical areas. All of us remember, these are areas that cater for health of the citizens of this country and their education, which is prime. We removed the money. When I heard about supplementary, in my dream I thought they are going to cater for those areas that we are removed. That's what I thought about. Secondly, it is clear, our colleague had made it clear that the supplementary budget is to cater for unforeseeable